my last video, I talked about turning my 2019 Honda Monkey into a track-focused bike. I've got on the PMT slicks, and I just did a really nice suspension setup from Gears Racing. But being on the track means I want to be as aggressive as possible, and that means having some frame sliders for additional protection for the bike. I looked into a few different companies for frame sliders for the Honda Monkey, and Sato Racing makes what I think is the best looking set and offering the most protection both for the main part of the bike and also options for the rear part of the bike. Particularly now that I have this very expensive suspension setup, I definitely want to protect from getting too much damage to this if I do go down. So I've got a pretty complete set that I'll do a quick unboxing and then an installation. This is the main slider kit that goes across the engine to protect the bulk of the bike. And then these are for the rear of the bike, again for that added protection for the suspension area and everything else back here. A little padding, a couple of zip ties, the main Delrin sliders. These are the standoffs and some of the hardware. And then these are the main brackets, some really nice machined aluminum parts. Also comes with some cool metallic decals and the instruction sheet. And this looks like it'll be a very simple installation. I also like that they provide the torque specifications for all the bolts. I'm really big on making sure that everything's torqued down correctly, and so it's nice to have it here and not having to look it up. But it looks like there's 3 mounting points on each side and then just assembling the slider itself. And then these were the extra parts that I ordered for the rear of the bike. So these are the 2 rear sliders, and then they also sent me this extension for the right side so that it can go past the exhaust. I'm not sure if I'm going to run this or not. I'm more interested in protecting my suspension than I am the exhaust, but we'll see what this looks like as well. So here on the left side of the bike, it's going to be these 2 mounting points here on the engine casing and then one here on the cylinder. So it'll be something like this. So it's just an M5 Allen to remove these 2. And then an M4 for this one. It looks like you don't reuse these clips. It looks like the provided zip ties can be used to secure this wiring behind the frame slider bracket. Okay, I'm going to use some thread locker for all of these bolts. The top one is an M6 by 40 millimeter. And there's also a small spacer that goes in with it. And then another M6 40 for the middle bolt. And then on the bottom bolt here, it's the M6 by 30 bolt, and there's a larger spacer. These all get torqued down to, the directions say 8 foot-pounds. Usually I'm torquing these to 9. I'll go ahead and torque them to 8 and follow the directions. All right, gorgeous piece of machining, and definitely like the way that it looks. Let's get the slider on last. The slider itself has some cool Sato Racing graphics on the side, and it's got a metal sleeve already inserted. And this uses a much beefier M8 Allen key. And this one I'm torquing down to 25 foot-pounds. So while we're on this side of the bike, I'm going to go ahead and put on the rear slider up here. This one's already pre-assembled. I will check to make sure that that's already torqued to 25 foot-pounds. But this is pretty simple. It's just a matter of removing this 14 millimeter acorn nut, and it just sits directly on top of it. The Monkey has 2 washers on the top. I think one is a provision for the rear carrier. I'm actually going to take off the second one so that I have a little more space to work with. So yeah, that has just enough clearance so that it's not hitting the adjustment knob on the can. I'm going to make it level so that it's level with the air can there, but that looks cool. And I'm going to torque this down to 22 foot-pounds. So before we flip to the other side, just wanted to show you how good these sliders look. This is the main slider. And then this is the rear slider. So lots of protection for the back of the bike. Definitely covers and protects the suspension. So here on the other side of the bike, the installation process will be the same. This is where I want to make sure that things actually fit though, because it looks like the mounting points will be just about there, which means the slider will come out in a pretty perfect position for me, protecting my intake, the tank, the oil cooler, and some of the other essential parts of the bike. So it looks like it's going to fit. Let's get it bolted on. All right, and the rear right bracket, the same as the left bracket, but I did add that extension so that it has clearance to protect the exhaust system here. So protects my suspension as well as the exhaust, and comes out now just a little bit further than the side mount. Let me take it off the stand to show you though the profile so you can see how much protection it adds. Just about an inch further than the exhaust itself, but definitely looks good. And then coming down here to the main bracket, you can see from a profile how much protection it adds. Show you on both sides. But the machining of the Delrin as well as the aluminum on the bracket look fantastic. This is definitely a very high quality product. So a huge thank you to Sato Racing for sending me these frame sliders. I think this is exactly what this bike needs as I transform it into a dedicated track bike. And not only are they functional, but they look fantastic. And if you followed my channel, while I do like function, form is always very important to me. So I do have a few other things to turn this into a track bike. There's a track day coming up this Friday actually that I'm hoping to attend. So I'm waiting for a few things to show up, but these frame sliders are definitely an essential component. I'll link directly in the description below to this product. Anyway, thank you everybody very much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos and keep on building.